The Delhi government has decided to extend the curfew it had imposed over the weekend for another 6 days till next Monday. Now, this comes after Delhi seems to be worsening in its battle against COVID-19. We've seen how the positivity rate on Sunday touched nearly 30%. Cases have crossed the 25,000. Active cases every day, daily cases have crossed the 25,000 mark. So this is clearly a very, very grim situation. But just to try and understand exactly how grim the situation is, what is the situation of oxygen supply, what is the center doing, what is the Arvind Kejriwal government in the state doing. We have with me Abantika Ghosh joining us in Government Matters to give us perspective and to give us some hard numbers. Abantika, thank you so much for joining us. I'd also request our viewers to send us questions so that we can start asking Abantika them. But before that, Abantika, so, the way Delhi was going, this curfew, this lockdown isn't entirely unexpected, is it?
Completely not, because as we were made to understand last time, the purpose of a lockdown is not exactly to break the chain of transmission. It is to give the health system the breathing space so that it can cater to people, just to give it a break so that it can recoup and get back to doing what it's supposed to do. Right now, and this I don't need to tell you, all of us know how bad the situation is. People are going helter-skelter for beds, medicines, oxygen, everything. Somebody who tried to book a test, in fact, did book one, and a colleague of ours, she had a slot booked this morning for home collection. She was told, no, sorry, we can't do home collection at all, and we don't know when we can do your test. That's
Right.
the kind of situation we are in. I mean, in fact, as I look at the Delhi government's bulletin from yesterday, I don't know where these 3627 vacant beds are, because people are not getting beds. People with oxygen in their 80s are not getting beds. It is really, really bad. And leave alone beds. You have symptoms, you can't even get yourself tested.
Right.
A former colleague actually wrote on Facebook that somebody got a slot for testing on the 25th of this month. That's the kind of situation. So clearly the health system in Delhi has collapsed, and we have no alternative but to just space out cases. It is perfectly possible that this lockdown, night curfew, whatever, will not, and this is a study by ICMR which says that such measures do not do anything for the eventual size of the pandemic. But right now, this is our only option so that people don't suffer without treatment.
Right. So, Abantika, just give us a sense of how the Delhi graph has been, because it has been a steep upward rise. It's actually a rather alarming graph.
Yeah, so I'll just give you one figure. In maybe 40 days or so, the test positivity rate has risen from 0.3% to almost 30%. It is yesterday, It was 29.74%, which means almost 1 in 3 tests,
right,
a little less actually,
right,
are positive. So it's really very alarming, the situation right now. In fact, it kind of baffles me to think that Delhi being the capital, we arrived here. How did we come here? Why wasn't something done before this?
Absolutely.
It's a little, because as you mentioned, the rise was really steep. We would wake up, look at the data every morning, and it would be like every morning the same reaction. It would be like, what is happening? Where is this going?
Right.
The only explanation perhaps is that people who came as rescuers last time are too busy trying to get new governments installed somewhere else, because this is bizarre how this went on to happen.
Right. So between the Delhi government and the center, there has clearly been, a gap which has meant that Delhi has reached where it has reached. But Avantika, to talk about the oxygen situation, because the chief minister also seems extremely concerned about it. He's asked the center for help. So what is that situation like?
So actually, the oxygen situation is extremely dire. ICU beds, like the chief minister said, there are just 100 ICU beds. So I want to give a small figure right now, because I'm just back from the COVID briefing, which was, I mean, it usually happens on Tuesdays, but today it happened on a Monday. And the figure that was given out, and this is one of the features of the second wave, if you can call it the second wave, and this I'm talking nationally, is that the requirement of oxygen is much more. So in the first wave, about 41.7% patients had shortness of breath. And in the second wave, the proportion is now up to 47.5%. This is the percentage of patients who have shortness of breath, who possibly need oxygen. Now, this apart, even your numbers have gone up so much. Last time, Delhi's highest was less than 8,000 cases.
Right.
Now, you are at 25,000 plus cases. That's over 3 times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that, I mean, A, there is the nature of the disease. The disease is behaving differently this time. And B, your numbers are so high that, now, and I think one very unfortunate feature of the second wave everywhere, not just in Delhi, has been the kind of politicking that has happened over a pandemic that is extremely unfortunate. Everywhere from Maharashtra to Delhi, everywhere. It's, I was just watching a BJP leader in Delhi saying what was Kejriwal doing.
Right. So it's not just the collapse of the healthcare system, it's also the collapse of cooperative federalism, as Prime Minister Modi had said. Okay, so let's start with some audience questions, Avantika. The first question is from Alankar Pushpam. Are governments across India, including in different states, hiding numbers? Is private testing being done? Is that also included in government figures? So is there any data fudging that's happening? Because really, if it's worse than this, then we don't know what to say. These numbers seem bad enough.
So I'll answer the easier part of that question first. Yes, private testing is a part of these numbers, cumulative numbers that we see, because for every test any lab does, they need to give that data to ICMR. They have to report. There can be a lag. It is perfectly possible that a lab somewhere in a very remote part of the country, though it's an online system, but it's perfectly possible they take 2-3 days, but eventually those numbers reflect. That is one part of the question. The other part is whether governments are deliberately fudging data. I think it's a little presumptuous, but going by the way we function and going by what we have seen in Bihar, the way tests have been fudged, I think it is a very probable situation.
Okay. Shikhar Tawar, what happened to the home quarantine model and providing pulse oximeters to people in home isolation that the Delhi government had started? Is the government still doing so?
So yeah, government is still doing so, but just that the numbers have gone through the roof. This is, as I again mentioned, that how much will you monitor?
Right.
Do you have the numbers? So this is 25,000 is 1 day's case. So for a 15-day period, calculate how many people, if of these, let's say 10,000 people, let's just take 10,000 people are in home isolation, which is not true. It would be much, much more. Then over a 15-day period, there are 1.5 lakh patients on home isolation then, right? If my maths is correct.
Right.
So that is the kind of people that you need to be monitoring, doing
catering to
checks and all that. It's not just about pulse oximeters. It's about whether you have the wherewithal to follow up on these cases. And then again, when these cases require hospitalization, do your hospitals have the space or the infrastructure to accommodate them? And most importantly, are your doctors there? I mean, doctors have also been working very hard. Doctors are falling ill.
Absolutely. And they've been working hard all of last year as well. So it's really, adding up.
Yeah, in fact, many of them are still repaying their own hospitals for their own treatment. That the COVID that they had last time, those big bills, they are still repaying. That's a fact.
Right. Okay. Tarush, what is the government doing to commercialize the vaccine? Why can't I buy a vaccine from the market? I am ready to pay the premium price for it. So that's the $1 million question. What on earth is happening with the vaccine? Why are we so, we've been so laggard as far as vaccination is concerned?
So right now, there are no vaccines free to be sold in the market. The government is not getting the vaccines that it needs. And why we have moved so slowly on so many things, waiver of bridging trials to foreign vaccines, or to give financial support to vaccine manufacturers, or to spruce up existing manufacturing facilities, be it Chengalpattu, be it Indian Immunologicals, be it the Hafkin Institute. Why we have moved so slowly is a question, I cannot answer. That's we did that series, What Went Wrong.
Right.
Where one of our stories was on whether complacency or pandemic fatigue has been the reason why we have not taken timely decisions. I want to talk about Hafkin Institute. The Hafkin proposal was moved in February, and for 2 months the government sat on the proposal and only gave it when the daily cases started crossing 2 lakh. Whereas that company says it needs 12 months to get to a state where it can start manufacturing vaccines. Now the government is saying, no, please do it in 6 months. But that's not how it works. These are very investment intensive and very highly technical things. So you cannot rush them like that.
In fact, for our viewers, do log on to our website, theprint.in, to read Avantika's series, What Went Wrong, because that really gives you a perspective of where India went wrong in its battle against COVID-19 and why we are where we are. So that's a 3-part series. I would urge you to log on to our website to read that. All right, this question is from Hitesh Nautiyal. Do you think the double mutation is the reason behind the steep increase? And what's the plan rolled out by the Center for Combating COVID? He also is wishing the two of us be safe. So thank you so much, Hitesh. Hope you and your family is keeping safe too.
So the official position is no, the double mutation is not responsible for the surge. However, every epidemiologist that I have spoken to, both within the government and outside, seem to suggest that yes, mutation is one reason why cases have gone up so much, and they have gone up so fast, especially in some parts of the country. Vidarbha has the double mutant. So there is some element of the double mutant certainly in this surge that epidemiologists agree. To what extent it is responsible for this, I don't think we would know unless we do more genome analysis, because we haven't done that many yet compared to the actual volume of cases that are coming in. The genome analysis is still lagging. We've done about 11,000, a little more than 11,000 samples have been analyzed to see what the genome looks like. But that number should really go up much, much more. And there should be much more variety, in the sense that there should be the geographical distribution of the samples should be far wider to get a better sense of how much mutation is playing a role in this surge.
Right. Okay. Kiran Menon, why don't our industrial giants or manufacturing unicorns boost up the production of medical equipment? Let all CSR funds be focused for the next 2 months on this.
That's a difficult question to answer. Next 2 months, CSIR funds would not do anything to this wave. What one fails to understand is, when we were writing letters to Bharat Biotech asking them to compress a trial that is supposed to take place for 6 months into 6 weeks, why then did we not move on the manufacturing? Because here we had a vaccine which was our own. We had transferred the technology to Bharat Biotech, so there was no way Bharat could refuse to transfer the technology back to us. So why we were not moving on the manufacturing facilities in July last year, when that Balram Bhargav letter went out to expedite clinical trials, is a question that I have been asking myself for the last 10 days. So I don't really know, because a lot of announcements are now happening which will not do anything to the second wave, because they just come too late.
Right.
Why these announcements could not have happened 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I fail to understand.
Okay, Shashwat Srivastav, I'm getting news of returning laborers flocking Anand Vihar railway station again. Are we heading to the same painful scenario of people walking back home? So, the one big fallout, collateral damage of COVID, of lockdowns, of course, has been the migrant labor, which was forced to go back home. It was a miserable period last year. Are we headed there again?
It is possible that we are headed there again, but what is different this time is that last time it was the first lockdown was of 3 weeks. This time it's for 6 days, and people would probably hope that things will get back to normal and they'll get back to their workplaces or to their jobs. So maybe the rush will not be that much. People will still hope to get back, and also they've lived through one lockdown. So maybe, I mean, it was an unknown entity a year back. It is possible we are facing that same situation, but it is possible the scale is not going to be as big as last time.
Okay, I'll take one last question. This is from Tanveer Panjwani. Poonawala's letter to Biden for lifting a ban on the basis raw material for manufacturing vaccine, will it help, or should the government of India take immediate and necessary action for it?
I think government of India should reach out to the US on this. This is not something that they will do just because businessmen ask them to do. There has to be some level of diplomatic intervention on this. And I would have expected that to happen sooner. The way we are right now. And one thing is certain, whether we could have done this, that, other, one thing is certain, if we had pushed the vaccination numbers more than we did, all the restrictions that we put in place, age restriction, profession restriction, all of that, that has really spoiled our game. Right now, just 7% of Indians have got at least one dose of the vaccine. In USA, that number is 50%. It's not right. Our numbers are huge. But we also have 2 licensed vaccines. We knew our numbers were huge. 7% and 50% are not comparable figures.
Right, absolutely. All right, Avantika, unfortunately, we are back to where we were last year, worse than that, of course, in terms of the numbers, much worse than that. But, well, there is always hope. That's the whole point. So let's hope that things get better. Let's hope this curfew helps. But do stay safe, all of you. That's what we tell our viewers always. Please stay safe, be indoors. Don't forget to mask up, double mask up now, actually, Avantika. Isn't that true?
Yeah, double mask.
Right.
Not cloth masks.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Avantika, for being with us in Government Matters. Thank you so much to all our viewers for sending in your questions. Do keep subscribing to our YouTube